I just...
What is my purpose?
Pass the dart. Ah! Thank you!
What is my purpose?
You pass darts.
Oh my god.
Yep! Welcome to my world, pal. It isn't very often when a NERF product just takes me back to being a kid. That just fills me with an unimaginable amount of glee that I have no choice but to foam at the mouth in a video about it, because I have wanted a NERF Terrascout for a very long time. They released sometime earlier this year, late last year, and they were prohibitively expensive to get into Fuzzy Walrus Industries. Something like $220? $200? $250, I think, is what I saw at my local Toys R Us, which I think it's a Toys R Us exclusive. Yeah, it's a Toys R Us exclusive. And that made it kind of difficult to get one. Kind of difficult to rationalize spending that amount of money, but now I suddenly have one, and why is that? Well, they were $100 during Black Friday. That's probably all I have to say about it. If for some reason you don't know what the Terrascout is, it's a frickin' remote control NERF tank. That's not it, because unlike things like the Cannon Commando or the Attacknid, which were both foam-flinging remote control apparati, the BMD Cannon Commando being an actual tank and the Attacknid being some kind of spider machine from Wild Wild West, this thing has got one thing on that, because it's got a built-in camera on the controller that not only shows you everything it's seeing, but can also record video. However, well, is it perfect? No. Is it worth the $250? Heck no. Maybe to the right rich kid. But it is the most fun I think I've had with any NERF product since the Maverick. It is just so much fun. The thing responds effortlessly. It dances if you want it to, and the performance is pretty darn good. And probably the best part about the entire product is it's all driven off a rechargeable battery pack that you could plug into the wall, charge up, and when it's done, you take it out, put it in the machine, it's good to go, and that's probably the best thing ever, because not only is it a NERF blaster with a remote control tank attached to it, that it's got a camera and everything, and it works, and you don't have to worry about batteries. You do have to worry about batteries for the remote, but it's a small price to pay. Operating the Terrascout is pretty standard. Of course, this is the complete package right here with what you get in the box, which is, of course, the base of the unit, the charger, the battery, the top of the unit, which is the actual blaster, an 18-dart magazine and 18 darts to go with it, and the controller, which firmly mounts on the back of the actual blaster, maybe too strongly, and allows it to be one complete little unit that you can pack away and bring with you wherever you want, and then of course take it out and play with it. The controller itself is very, very cool looking. No, seriously, this controller is the coolest part of the entire package, in my opinion. It looks awesome. It's got two nice pistol grip style controls right here with triggers back here for operating the vehicle. Then you've got the control sticks right here. One of them is forward and backwards. The other is left and right, which is a little bit weird, and we'll get to that. It's got this beautiful dust cover that you can flip up to protect the screen, or, well, to see the screen and flip down to protect the screen. It's got a record button, a power button, which will turn off and on the controller, not the entire unit, unfortunately, and then something to select a channel, so if you have multiple Terrascouts, you can control them, you know, you can have multiple playing in the same area because they have different frequencies. It's pretty darn nifty. I like this controller a lot. It's very comfortable. I do have rather small-ish hands, or average-sized hands. It works really good. The buttons and control sticks are not exactly up to snuff. Well, they don't, they're really, I thought this thing was broken the first time I got it. The buttons are really squishy and ew, and the control sticks themselves, like, the left and right stick can move up and down if you try, which is a little annoying, and it can get hung up and prevent you from fully going in one direction, which is annoying. And ironically, it's a tank and it doesn't use tank controls. That's not the worst thing ever because it makes it a lot easier to control, but I was expecting, you know, forward and backwards on individual tank treads and not what I got, and maybe that's for the best. I don't know, I was a little weirded out about it. And why the heck is this not like a spring-loaded button or something? That's annoying. It doesn't even, like, there could have been like a little lip of plastic right here so it will snap open or something. Anything. They didn't do it. That just seems like a missed opportunity to me. But of course, it is awesome because you can just attach it to the unit, carry it around wherever you want to go, and it works perfectly well. The actual blaster is freaking huge. Well, that's not exactly fair. The blaster portion of it is rather compact because it is essentially a rapid strike with what I can tell the same style pusher mechanism and everything. However, it's running off a rechargeable battery, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. And of course, it's got a microphone and a camera built into it with a spot for an SD card up here and plenty of attachment points. Yes, this thing actually allows you to put a barrel attachment and rail attachments both right here on the freaking thing, which is awesome. That is something I wasn't expecting, and it does have a Raider or Rampage style mag release. Pull that, open it up, again, and then put it back in, you're good to go. And just like the VMD Cannon Commando, it does have adjustable up and down, so you can get a little bit of angle to your shots, or you can adjust the angle and actually hit people. And unlike the VMD Cannon Commando, you can adjust this through the controller, which is great. You don't have to set it up like this and then put it down and have it run around. And if you want to have it like that to shoot other tanks, well, then you have to grab it and put it in. It's a little bit of a hassle. This thing will do all of that. And then, of course, big, beefy body tank treads, little roll guard right there. Nothing on the back, unfortunately. The only controls on it, of course, power and then switching the various channels to match up with the remote. Or if you have multiple of these, you can have multiple in the field by switching the channel. Another big issue is that once you put the SD card in there, I'm not sure you can get it out without using pliers. It was very difficult to get in there to begin with, and then once I put the adapter in there for my micro SD card, I couldn't get it back out. Thankfully, I put an adapter in there so I could just scrape out the actual SD card with my fingernail, but that's kind of an issue. And like I said, the performance is pretty good. Now, it's going to be less good than you standing up and holding the thing, because of course, it's low to the ground. There's, you know, not so much distance I could possibly get, even with the angle at max with it running around, but it does work, and it, well, rechargeable battery fires pretty decently fast. It is technically fully usable as a tank that shoots darts. What's a little bit less usable is the fact that the remote and the tank have a bit of a delay. I was really hoping that wasn't the case. I was hoping it was one-to-one. It's not. Really, really aggravating. So if you're using this thing to, like, look down a hallway or something like that, or maybe you're looking around a corner, what you see in the remote is about a second behind what is actually happening. So it makes actually hitting things impossible, and fine-tuning your aim, because the screen is really blurry on that thing, the bitrate is extremely low feeding to the actual remote, is terrible. You're probably never going to be able to turn it to hit somebody either. Is it still fun? Yes, but that kind of removes a big aspect of what you would want to use this thing for in a Nerf war. That's a big bummer. And one really cool feature is the fact that, well, these sticks are actually, they have sensitivity, so if you don't want to move forward at full speed, you can just only move it slightly. Same thing with left and right. If you just move it just barely left or right, well, it will move at an appropriate speed, which is great. You don't have to always go full bore, but man, is this thing fun to have it full bore, because you can almost flip it with how powerful it is. It's too powerful for itself. It's extremely top-heavy and lopsided. It's really, really fun. Mod potential. Well, because of the very sensitive electronics in there, it might not be the easiest thing to mod ever. You could, of course, put new flywheels and stuff in it, but with all the voltage limiting and stuff like that, you probably don't want to do something like that. And there's probably not really a good way to remove all of the stuff that would limit the voltage, which is a pain. I'm sure it can be done, but for the average person, I don't think that's going to happen. However, picking this thing up, my first initial thought when I bought it was, well, obviously it's a flywheel blaster, there's a control board inside of it, and there's a control board that's obviously going to control both the motors. So what exactly is stopping me from tracing the wires from the motors back to the control board, desoldering them, and putting something else there? Maybe putting an entire different blaster on here that happens to be full auto and flywheel powered? yeah, that's exactly what I thought I would do. And right after I bought this, Buff Daddy Nerf decided, hey, I'm gonna put a nemesis on the top of mine. Son of a Dickens, because that's exactly what I wanted to do, and he already did it. And it works about as well as you expect. Performance is identical to what you'd want it to be. I'm surprised that not only has that not been done, but since you can remove the entire turret and there's a little connector, somebody hasn't isolated that connector to have power and controls and stuff to it, so you could just have a shoulder-mounted one of these and have the tank for something completely different. I have a feeling somebody would do something like that in the future, but since it's so electronically, you have to have an idea of what you're doing. You have to be able to identify circuits and stuff like that, which is not something the average person can do. Durability. Well, I've dropped it a couple of times. This was after the issue with that. It was doing that out of the package. And no issues so far. Works exactly how it did when it got out of the package. The only issue I've really had is that on the controller itself, the mounting bracket has got a little bit of stress on it. I don't know if you can see the white streak on one side of it, but that might break in the future, which would be a pain. Of course, I could fix it because I'm a modder, but that's a little disheartening. But other than that, I've also ran it through mud, wet grass, stuff that you normally wouldn't want to do with an electronic device, and it did it admirably. In fact, it was so muddy afterwards I had to place it on the ground and spin it around in circles to dry it out, and it flung water and grass and mud everywhere. Battery life? It's not bad. Probably get about an hour of play. It takes about 2.5, 3 hours to charge. It's not terrible. It's not great. It took a very long time to charge, which was kind of annoying, and, well, it is what it is. But playtime, there's a lot to have here. It works pretty good, and of course, the actual remote has a battery indicator to tell you how much battery life is left in the tank itself, which is pretty darn nifty. You would hope it would do that, and it does do that. So I guess the real question is it worth picking up one of these things, or the new Terrascout Recon? Well, I've already talked about the Terrascout Recon. I've heard from Buff Daddy it has issues, but then somebody said it doesn't have issues, so the jury, again, is still out on that one. But even if you want to pick up one of these things, if you can find it for about 150 bucks, you'll probably like it. You probably won't feel burned. If you paid anything more than that, I'd watch out. I'd be extremely careful. I don't think it's worth that much. Maybe to a kid. I mean, if I was 10 years old and I had something like this, I would be just king of the world. But again, I'm not spending my own money on it, so it's debatable. But I really, really like this thing, and I say that with no hyperbole. It is probably the most fun I've ever had with a Nerf product, especially a stock one. It's amazing to me that stock, this blaster, is still fits some kind of use. I mean, you could use it for reconnaissance, you could use it for harassing an enemy team, you could set it down and use it for just surveillance. There's a lot of things you could do with it, and that opens up new ways to play. So, and there's really not a whole lot you can do other than what I did was, like, when I had my attack knit, I put a GoPro on it, and then I used my phone with the GoPro app, and that had the same delay, so really there's not a whole lot missing there. Overall, I'd say the Terrascout's a solid product if you can get it for a discount. It's not perfect, but nothing seldom is. So let me know what you think about the Terrascout. I'm interested to see how many of you actually have one of these things, and if you have any super sweet mod ideas that I haven't thought of that, well, they might be possible, but this thing is a pain to, I mean, you think it would be easy, but when it comes to little computers, electronics, and stuff like that, that puts a damper on a lot of things unless you're some kind of electronical genius. I'm Walcom S7, thank you so much for watching this video, and of course, I hope to see you in an entirely different one.